Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in at 6 p.m. on a Monday evening. I know for some it's not easy and some of you do it. For some of you who can't do it now, you can tell your friends and others to watch this recorded later and we'll share the link widely on our social media handles and on the emails that you registered on Zoom for as well. For those of you who joined in last week for the first episode, you're aware what Zero Hour Online is all about. It's an unwebinar and it was inspired by a lot of people saying they are tired of webinars. And you'll notice now in the next 30 minutes and the second half of the 30 minutes as well, why this is an unwebinar. A, because these are very, very busy people who make time on a Monday evening to talk about things beyond their work alone, about ideas, thoughts, insights that they can share with a wide set of people. This evening, we have two very, very interesting people from corporate India. We have Radhika Ghai, based in Gurgaon, and Shrikant Shastri, based in New Delhi. Radhika is one of the few or maybe only woman co-founders of a unicorn, which is $1 billion enterprise. And she created ShopClues with a team of co-founders over 10 years ago and runs it now as the Chief Business Officer. Shrikant Shastri also is a serial entrepreneur. He is an IIT Kanpur and IIM Calcutta alumnus. He built a company many, many years ago, which was then sold to the Publicis Group. It was called Solutions, for those of you who are familiar, and became Solutions Digitas. And that's when I met him. I joined a sister company of Solutions Digitas around the same time the sale happened in 2009 or 10. And we've been in touch with each other ever since. I've known Radhika for about 4 years now, and I find these two people in the world of corporates to be completely down to earth and completely easy to learn from, easy to talk to. And therefore, we invited them. They haven't met each other before. They met each other for the first time today. For those of you who've joined in now, welcome once again. And you have the ability to ask questions, which I'll pick up from the question box, Q&A box, towards the second half of this little talk show that we have together called Zero Hour Online. For those tweeting and putting this on Instagram and Facebook, Zero Hour Online is the hashtag to track, follow, and tweet and post about. Thank you and welcome Shrikant and welcome Radhika. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's been very, very difficult, crazy, tiring days for all of us and for you all as well. Let's start by asking you, how has it been? How have the last 2 months been? We'll start with Radhika.
I've realized that the way I describe myself has changed completely, Amit, in the last few days. So I'm the usual spectrum of things. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I work, and I try to do my bit for the community. But I feel that the intensity with which each one of these roles has hit me in the last 3 months has been much more than pretty much ever before. And that's really the best way to define how the lockdown has hit us. Work has been super intense. I run an e-commerce company, so you can imagine, with the essential services and everything else. I have 2 boys, an 11th grader and a 6th grader. So I am a college counselor. I'm an elementary school teacher. I have my parents who live with me. So I'm also what I call, and pardon my language, a WhatsApp University crap shooter, which is not a very popular person to be. So multiple things, but I think the intensity of each of them has gone up multifold.
Interesting. Thanks for that. Shrikant, tell us about your last 2.5 months as well.
It's been one of the most exciting phases of my life. And to explain that, I need to give you a little bit of context. Most of my life, I've found crazy things to do. I'm very intuitive about what crazy pursuit I pick up next. And everyone around me wonders what's wrong with this guy, but I really enjoyed figuring out the next crazy thing to do. So this time around, it was very intuitive and I wasn't looking for it. On day 2 of lockdown, I got pulled into a project to mentor a bunch of young kids who had raised their hand to build a brand new high quality ventilator from scratch and said, we will deliver 30,000 ventilators. So their college incubator head came to me and said, can you help? I said, sure. I didn't know what I was getting into. So I put together a task force of about 20 people, ages from 25 to 75, who brought range of expertise to help these guys. And I'm happy to say that in 8 weeks, we built a world-class ventilator, which is going into manufacturing next week, just at the time when COVID is peaking. So it's been one of the most exciting phases of my life. I've actually functioned as the co-CEO of this project and managing this diverse group of 20 entirely remotely through Zoom, WhatsApp, email, and phone calls. We moved from alpha product design to a manufactured product next week. And I've got deep into medtech as a sector. So I've discovered a completely new sector as a consequence of the lockdown. That's why I called it the most exciting phase.
Wow, that's interesting. I did not know this was going on in your life. Thanks for sharing that. We'll talk more about that offline, maybe if you don't get a chance in the next 45 minutes. But I'm going to transport you both back to your childhood days. And that's why this is an unwebinar. In webinars, you talk serious things, you talk business only to business leaders like yours. But today we're going to ask you questions about your childhood, 1 or 2 questions to each of you. Radhika, tell us about your childhood, your growing up years. And there's a reason I'm going to ask you this question, which you'll know in my subsequent question. Tell us about that in a nutshell or in brief.
I'm an army brat. My dad is a second generation army person. So lived in multiple places, been to about 10 odd schools. And it was a really fun, high learning, high octane childhood, I'd say. Lots of new friends all the time. And gives you a little bit of the ants in your pants feeling. If you're not moving in a year or two, you've paused in life. And I think that's kind of what I've carried with me throughout as well.
No, thanks. Interesting. Shrikant, tell us about your growing up years. I knew you grew up in the outskirts of Mumbai in Ambernath. Tell us about that life back then.
So exact opposite of what Radhika described. She called herself a brat, or did she? I don't know. So I was the exact opposite of that. I was completely naive and innocent growing up in a small town. I grew up in a point of time where English was my 4th fluent language after Hindi, Marathi, and Tamil, which is my mother tongue. I was very good at English writing because our teachers ingrained Wren and Martin into us, but spoken English was not the forte. I went to a Kendriya Vidyalaya where the fee was exactly 1 rupee a month for almost the entire tenure of the school. So small town, vernacular background, 1 rupee a month school fee, naive and innocent, but it was a utopian, completely utopian childhood where nothing else mattered but that you're having fun with your friends, playing every game under the sun, including gilli danda, marbles, and stick and stone. It was a great childhood, but completely isolated, completely different from what I see my kids growing up city like Delhi, actually.
I have to point out, we do have that in common, Shrikant. I am from KV as well.
Okay.
Multiple KVs though.
Wow.
Okay, wonderful.
Interesting. So the reason I asked you both this question is, what from your childhood life, your days in your teens, helped you in the last 2.5, 3 months? Because a lot of us use the word, which I don't like to use on this webinar, called unprecedented, and it's an unprecedented time. I'm avoiding that word usage to a large extent. But what in these times, which we have never seen in our life, you were able to do differently because of certain things you learned in your childhood, certain things you were able to get exposed to as a teenager. Was there anything from that life of yours as a teenager, growing up in the 70s for Shrikant, maybe in the 80s for Radhika, that helped you in the last 2.5, 3 months navigate this better? If there was something from that era that helped you.
I can go first here because one thing was very, very clear when we were growing up was that make the most of the current moment, because it really might not come back. I'll give you an example. We were posted in Ahmednagar. My dad was posted in Ahmednagar. It was the family that was always posted, but my dad was posted in Ahmednagar. It's a small town near Pune, and a phenomenal place. You know, the regimental center is there. Had some great friends who are in my life till date, and you know, great place to be. Olympic-sized swimming pool. Horses with the cavalry regiment being there. And I think the essence of being there was make the most of today, because tomorrow you might move to a place like Ganganagar or Pathankot or Chakki where you'll have none of these facilities. And that has stuck with me. You know, I try to look at ki aaj kya hai? You know, we can do this today that we might not be able to do tomorrow. And that really goes back to, you know, what we can do at work today. It's a huge opportunity, which we might not be able to do in the regular scheme of things. So that's something that's kind of carried me through the past 3-4 months as well.
Interesting. Thanks. Tell us about your instances, if there are any of those, Shrikant.
Yeah, I think two things which were ingrained from the school days, which have stayed with me throughout my life. The first one is that, I mean, this is a classical Indian middle class lesson that is drilled into every kid, right? Work hard and life will take care of yourself. And if you don't work hard, you're dead. I think that is the first lesson that has stayed right through. So even now, I find myself working foolishly and endlessly when I could probably be having a chilled out time. So that's one. The second one is when I was growing up, I went to KV in Ambernath. Now, this was inside the Ordnance Factory campus, and you spoke about Ordnance Factory, Amit. Now, the
Yeah.
Ordnance Factory, the KV there, therefore had kids coming who are workers' children, managers' children, drivers' children, and they were outsiders who are not from government background. So you could actually see a full range of class disparity. And I would be embarrassed actually if my parents said, "Let me drop you in a car," and we had a old second-hand car in those days. I would say no. I mean, I don't want to do it. I would go on a bicycle, therefore. So the fact that even if you had something that was better than other people, you don't flaunt it. Unlike what you would see in a North India or a Delhi, for example, you would hide it and keep a low profile. And that has typically stayed with me through my career. So very often, Amit, friends like you are from the PR industry, when you ask me to say, why don't you increase your profile? This is what is at the back of my mind. I typically keep a low profile on most things, and that got ingrained at a much earlier.
Interesting. No, thanks for sharing that. Before I move to the next question, I'm going to specially call out 3 or 4 people who are participating as attendees today, and later on we'll bring them in some form, either to ask questions on chat or with their videos. I want to specially say hi to Sudha Dudley if she's here, and Barun Jha. It's your birthday today, and I wished them this morning, and they said they'll join in this evening gathering. So Sudha and Barun, you're here. Happy birthday to you. And
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, guys.
I also want to especially acknowledge, I had a class teacher in 3rd standard. She was in her 20s then, and I was 8 or 7 years old back then. She is very, very keen on what I do. So when I do these things, I keep WhatsApping her. She's 2 or 3 years away from retiring, but she looks like she's still 20 years away from retiring. Her name is Celestine Vas, Celestine teacher in Mangalore. So she's on this call. I want to say hi to her and thank her for joining this call wherever she is. And there's another person who is connected to both of you, and I got to know he knows you both after I met you all first, and we've had a lot of exchanges before. Anup Sharma. So Anup is Radhika's classmate from her MBA days, her first MBA in Indore, and also was part of the original team of Solutions back when Shrikant created his company over 20 years ago. So hi and special welcome to the 3 or 4 of them. I'll call out some more names later if we get a chance, but feel free for all of you in the call to asking your questions in the Q&A box that will take up a few minutes from now from Radhika and Shrikant. So Shrikant, tell us about how did you get into becoming an entrepreneur? What led to you becoming an entrepreneur, first with Solutions and then your second stint with Crayon Big Data?
Yeah, so this one is a simple answer, although words like entrepreneur, startup, venture capital did not exist when I was growing up.
Right.
This goes back to the days when I was a school kid. So my dad was CA topper kinds, and he worked for this private company, which was a chemical company. And it was owned by, it was a family-owned business, and he worked there. And one of the things, even when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, that stayed with me was because it was a family-owned business, 3 brothers owned it, everyone would call them Sethji. And I always wondered, why are highly qualified professionals calling someone Seth? And people would tend to be kind of semi-obsequious to the Seths. And I said, I'm not going to let this happen to me when I grow up. So what I know for sure is, while I did not know the terms entrepreneur, startup, venture capital, all I knew is I did not want to work for anyone else if this is what it entailed. And therefore, at the back of my mind, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Obviously, I did not know at that stage what I would do eventually as an entrepreneur, but that's when it got first ingrained.
Radhika, tell us about your story, because like I mentioned, and for those who came in late, Radhika is the only Indian woman, I think, if my facts are right, who's been part of a $1 billion startup, a $1 billion enterprise as a co-founder. So tell us about how the journey of joining or creating ShopClues began. I know I saw your tweet this morning when something was happening in the US. You mentioned about being a North Storm person, and you had time with Nostrum as well. Tell us about the ShopClues creation.
So my story is completely different from Shrikant's. I am an accidental entrepreneur in pretty much every way or form. I did my MBA in India and then went to the US, got another MBA. The first degree was more a master's in advertising, and I shout out to Anoop right now. But I did my MBA. My first job was with Goldman Sachs in New York, doing wealth management, and short stint there, post 2011, scary time for all of us. That was another big incident in my life, the 9/11, and then moved to retail because that's really where my heart was. I loved consumer, I loved retail. I understand, what consumer insights are. So spent about 5 odd years with Nordstrom, and I have to say I'm incredibly proud of being what they call a Nordy girl. However sexist it sounds, it is a company that's best in breed. It's a company that has stood by its values so strongly, and in today's day and era when so much is happening in the US, very proud to say that that's where I learned most of my baseline. My first entrepreneurship gig was really when my second baby was when I was pregnant with him, and I'd been at home for about a year, and I really wanted to do something. I was writing extensively, and that was the origin of Fashion Clues. Now you know where Shop Clues came from. And Shop Clues was more of a perfect storm. There were 4 or 5 of us who were the co-founders, very different backgrounds. Literally, if you look at Shrikant and me, similar backgrounds, absolutely different backgrounds. And we got together, chatting late into the night, and Shop Clues was born. And it's been a roller coaster, crazy ride ever since.
Great. So I'll keep your past for a little later now. We'll come to the present and the future. So tell us about what you're seeing, what you're reading, from whatever you can sense, given what the world and India is going on right now. What do you see happening in the next maybe 2 or 3 months, 2 or 3 years? Your take on how life will change, how life has changed for everybody from all walks of life. Shrikant, you can go first, and then we'll come back to Radhika.
Sure. So I think some things are very obvious. Social distancing will continue to play a role, and therefore the famous Jadoo Ki Jhappi in Munna Bhai MBBS, people will be wary about giving those Jadoo Ki Jhappis. People will keep a safe distance. Then I think, surprisingly, people would now learn to use digital to collaborate. I mean, I'll give you a contrast. At Crayon Data, as a co-founder, when I was trying to build out a business in the US, I lived there for 2 years, and I was running global sales for Crayon Data. So the contrast was very clear. In the US, we were doing B2B sales. No one wanted to meet you for the initial meeting. They were happy to listen to your sales pitch over a call or a Skype. In India, even for the first meeting, they expect you to be in front of them and meet you 30 minutes delayed meeting or whatever. So the contrast between a desire for face-to-face meeting and in the US, a preference for remote meeting was so stark. I think some of that is going to change now. Digital and remote will now become increasingly mainstay because people have just gotten comfortable with the idea of remote working and collaboration.
Right.
Those are 2 changes which are the obvious ones. The other 2 changes which I am laying out more as a hope rather than a strong belief. One hope is that as a group of people, we'll be more conscious of disparities, having seen the plight of the migrants, having seen the fact that while we've been able to arrange special flights for stranded travelers from overseas, we've struggled to provide the same treatment to domestic migrants who are poorer. So I'm just hoping that we'll be more sensitive and conscious about such disparities. The other hope that I have, and this one has certainly a better chance of succeeding, I believe that India's science and engineering talent, which is sitting inside research laboratories and academia, will now come out to the forefront. And I've been fortunate enough to have a ringside view of that during this crisis because I was involved with this ventilator project that was born out of a campus incubator. Right. And the number of scientists and engineers and technologists who've been working on vaccines and PPEs and ventilators. That's amazing. That's something that's been missing in the Indian entrepreneurship ecosystem, the connection with campus and university incubators, research, patents, etc. And I believe a lot of that will change. So that's the spectrum of changes I think I would like to see.
Interesting. Thanks, Shrikant. Radhika, do you have thoughts on the immediate future as you see things unfolding next 30 days, next 2-3 months, a couple of years?
So, I was, when all of this happened, I was just reading up about the Spanish flu. You said we'll talk about the future, but the past is always very relevant.
Sure.
About the Spanish flu and what really happened, after, let's say, about a year, 2 years. The fact is that nothing had changed. Things were back to being normal. The masks were gone. People were back to working, and all the quarantine and everything that had become a part of people's lives was put in the back seat completely. So I agree with Shrikant that the next 3 to 4 months are going to continue to be hunker down, focus on being the best that you can be. I do think that this is also a time for introspection for a lot of us, right? Shrikant spoke briefly about the Jadoo Ki Jappi going missing, but I think that Jadoo Ki Jappi and with the right spirit is something that we have to give ourselves. And that is a learning. That's been a learning for me. That how do I become the best that I can be without really getting into the entire FOMO, as I've called it, right? That there is a whole lockdown FOMO of what you must do because that's what everybody else is doing. And really that can go to hell. The fact is that you have to be the best you can be and you want to be. And I think it is time for people to focus on themselves, to be more introspective. I also think that social awareness has gone up significantly. There is a lot of, when I talk to my 16-year-old, he talks about community service in a very different way than I have ever looked at it. For him, that is as much a part of something that he wants to do as a career is. And that's really, I'm being honest here, that's not how we were brought up. And I think that is going to be very, very critical and is going to be an integral part of all our lives going forward as well. But in a year or two, I think back to the normal.
Let's hope for that. I'll ask you my last question in part 1 before I take a few audience questions and then come back to my questions. My last question is actually on the theme on Conversations for a Better Tomorrow. So what are the things that you both see independently that will help all of us have a better tomorrow? What are 2 or 3 things that Shrikant sees that we as citizens of this country, of this planet, need to do more of in order to have a better tomorrow? You can choose anything you've observed in the last couple of months or even prior to what we are going through to say, hey, if we did these things right, and it's easy to do these things if we get together, we can have a better tomorrow. So Shrikant?
Yeah, so I think from one of the areas where I spend a lot of time is with mentoring startups, particularly at incubators across the country. I have a model in mind based on what I've seen in the ventilator project of how India has the potential to create a new model for what Silicon Valley created for the US many decades ago. So I'm going to take a minute to explain.
Sure.
Why did Silicon Valley succeed? Because there is a university ecosystem there, Stanford and others. There is venture capital. There is global talent pool that lands up there. They were all concentrated in a 121 square kilometer area there. And that became a hub for all the innovation that could be transported across the world. What this COVID crisis has taught us, we don't need that physical location to be the criteria. And the reason I'm saying this with so much conviction is that I've seen in the ventilator project, we were actually able to pull in the best doctors and biomedical engineers from across the world to weigh in on the product design that 3 young kids in India had created. We were able to get a range of 15 mentors from across India and across the world to contribute to their idea, supply chain experts, manufacturing experts, and we had investors weighing in. So you had a model whereby you created a virtual Silicon Valley, and India, with all its difficulties and ease of doing business, will no longer be handicapped. I think it's possible for us to really propel India's talent, particularly using hardcore technology as a base to create solutions that solve the world's problems, but no longer handicapped by the traditional infrastructure bottlenecks. That's a big wish list that I have in my mind to completely make this leap as far as India is concerned.
Thanks, Srikanth. Radhika, what are your thoughts about doing some things that we didn't do earlier, couldn't do earlier, that you feel now we should do to have a better future for us as Indians and also for the global citizenry at large?
I think, Amit, I truly believe that social entrepreneurship is something that will emerge as a big theme over the next couple of years. And primarily because the plight of a lot of communities, the migrant community has come out and it's in our faces. It's difficult to ignore it anymore. So I do think that there will be a strong theme of social entrepreneurship that should come out of this. And the second one, more work-centric, and I have promised myself that I'll not do any work talk here, but I have to bring that up, is that Srikanth defined it really well, that the virtual teams defy the limitations of being in an actual area. Till now, when we talk to people, we talk about having remote teams. I have a remote team that works out of Delhi, I have a remote team that works out of Bangalore or this. I think that is going to go away. It's going to be more of a distributed model where there is no concept of a headquarters. And again, while I'm an optimist, I'm also a realist. So I don't know how quickly this will happen. But the concept of a distributed team, and which is exactly what Srikanth defined, right, with the ventilator project, where people are based across the regions and yet manage to accomplish a task. If that can become the future of the corporate world, we can achieve so much more.
Thank you both for sharing those thoughts. I have one more similar question, which I'll keep towards the fag end at about 6:55 before we wind up. I'll take a couple of questions from the audience now. There's a question from Rajesh Sikwera, who works with the Emirates Airline in Dubai. His question is, what are the industries that will benefit younger people making career choices in the future, given that what we have seen in the last 2.5, 3 months? So what are the industry sectors that will be really pandemic proof maybe for the future, that people will have a better life in those sectors versus what we are seeing with certain people in certain sectors now? So I'll ask Srikanth to take that question, and if Radhika wants to weigh in next, she can.
Sure. Hi, 3 sectors very clearly, and I'm sure there are many more. One is, and all 3 have been fueled by COVID. One is EdTech. Very clearly, the shift to online learning is here to stay. And even colleges that eventually want kids back on campus believe that online will have a role to play. So EdTech very clearly. Second is MedTech. I'm going to give an analogy. When 9/11 happened in the US, at that point of time, suddenly the US went berserk with a lot of technology and inventions which provided for homeland security. So what homeland security careers in homeland security companies suddenly became mainstay after 9/11. The same is going to happen with medtech and healthcare after COVID. There's going to be a burst of new technologies, new inventions, products and services catering to healthcare and medtech. So that's the second area. Third is anything to do with collaboration, remote collaboration. Zoom has gone through the roof, and that's just one example. Any company that can help remote working, any technology company, that's the other place to be. 3 industries, stay in those 3 industries, you'll be safe and secure for some time to come.
Thanks, Srikanth. Radhika, do you want to add to this, or you pretty much agree with Srikanth? Your choice.
I 100% agree with Srikanth, but I do have one thing to add. It is also the time of opportunity, right? Rajesh works with Emirates, and we can hear where that question is coming from. But the fact is that people still want entertainment. They will still want some replacement of travel, of the high that travel gives them. What can you do for that? I think this is also a time to think out of the box. And Rajesh, you know how the travel industry works. this is a great opportunity to see if there are alternates that can be created.
Nice. There are two questions that have come, one from Amandeep Arora and Ram Gopal Sista. I'm going to change those questions a bit because I'll build on those. I'm going to pick up from Ram Gopal's term, I'm going to say it right, Atmanirbhar, self-reliance. How is this entire call by our Prime Minister to be self-reliant in the future going to add into what you all do? I mean, Shrikant, you run a big data company. Radhika, you run an e-commerce marketplace. How are the call for self-reliance going to help companies like yours in the future?
Radhika, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah. So, over the last couple of years, we've already seen the change. And if you know ShopClues, we cater to tier 2, tier 3 markets, and the categories that we are more proficient in are unstructured categories. And for us, it's been, and I'm really honest here, it's been a mix of made in China products and products that are manufactured in India. So when we hear the clarinet of Atmanirbhar or Make in India, it's phenomenal for us. It's great to be able to go back to Rajkot, to be able to go back to Surat, to be able to go back to Coimbatore and work with the small merchant, with the small and medium merchant. So vocal for local may not be for the artisan brands for us, but we are very focused on getting the small merchant, the small manufacturer, the small wholesaler on board and making sure that he gets the right opportunity that he has. And that is a change that you will see across all e-commerce platforms and pretty much all through retail as well.
So,
thanks for that. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
So I'm going to give an example of how I've seen both Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India at close quarters in the ventilator project, and it's fascinating. Just to give you a sense, most ventilators in India, 90% of them by volume get imported, and they're priced between 6 lakhs and 15 lakhs a piece. Only 10% is domestically made. With what we've built, we're hoping to change that and change the domestic share to 50% next year. The product is already 83% indigenized in terms of components. So it is clearly Atmanirbhar Bharat, but there's a big Make in India angle to this. We created a unique model saying these young kids cannot set up a factory on time to supply to the market's demand. So we actually picked 2 SMEs and a PSU who have idle capacity, license the technology to them and getting them to manufacture. So here you're solving not just Make in India problem, but a SME not having enough business problem as well. So it's Atmanirbhar Bharat, it's Make in India, and it's MSME sector, which is languishing. You're solving all 3 problems at the same go. And I think this is a great opportunity because the SMEs and PSUs know how to set up factories, run them, get around the red tape, etc. It's much harder for a young startup to come and do that. They'll spend half their life just learning the ropes on that one. I think there's a great opportunity for people to get together and solve problems. You'll solve many people's problems at the same time, actually.
Cool. So we'll end. I would just want to ask you to leave us with one last message before we wind up. Shrikant, what is the one thing you feel we should see more in this world in the future for a better tomorrow? What's that one thing? And then the same question to Radhika as the final word.
I think the one thing I'd like to see is everyone being more generous to other people, particularly when they see disparities. And that's where I'd like to see a lot more tangible action. As a country, India is less generous and less giving than many other countries in the world. I'd like to see that change.
I'm there as well. Compassion and empathy, self-empathy included, but compassion and empathy, very important.
We'll end now. Next week, we have a very interesting chat. Both of you and all the attendees today are welcome to that live recording. I'm taking a back seat as a host next week, and I'm getting a guest host. Have you heard of a guest host? You haven't. So the guest host, so we have a very interesting gentleman called Deepak Jolly. So Deepak Jolly is going to talk to 2 corporate honchos next week from the marketing world. He's going to talk to Harit Nagpal, who's the CEO of Tata Sky, and to Abanti Shankar Narayanan, who's the Chief Corporate Affairs and Strategy Officer at Diageo India. That's 6 p.m. next Monday. I'll be back as the host the following week on 15th, where I'm going to host a very interesting corporate couple, Siddharth Banerjee and Eka Chaturvedi Banerjee, who've written a very interesting book called 52 Red Pills a few months ago. That's on 15th. But next week, you see it on your screen. We have Deepak, Harith, and Abanti. Hopefully, these are planned for Monday evening 6 p.m. But all these people are busy. If we have a crisis and they can't make it at that time, we'll let you know and have a backup plan. But they're committed to being with us next week. So sign up on that link and I'll send it to you all later as well. But thank you everybody for joining in and sparing a precious 1 hour on a Monday evening to listen to Srikanth and Radhika. I enjoyed myself. I hope they did and I hope all of you did as well. Thanks again.
Amit. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks for having me.
Radhika, lovely meeting you.
Very nice to see you as well, Srikanth, the new normal.
For those who joined late, check out Radhika Ghai online on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Check out Srikanth Shastri as well to know what they've done, what they do, if you missed the intros earlier. Thank you so much. Have a great evening and a great month of June. We have World Environment Day coming up on Friday. We have International Yoga Day on 21st June. So get ready for those big days in the middle of partial lockdowns and unlock one. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thanks.